Hey, what's up guys, TechTime here and I'm back again with a brand new video. If you're new around here, don't be a stranger, make sure to leave a thumbs up, also make sure you subscribe to the channel. So with that being said, today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my experience with the Samsung Galaxy A15 5G now that I've been using this phone for 3 months on and off. So basically my thoughts have changed ever since I did my original review. So here's what I think of this phone so far. Beginning with the design itself, I think that it's definitely a leap forward from the previous generation, which was the Galaxy A14. Now Samsung did change a couple of things. Obviously design is just a subjective topic. The back has this kind of smooth finish to it that is extremely slippery, and the color on it actually looks pretty sharp. I like it. It looks really cool, especially when you direct it at sunlight. It looks nice. So the back also has a triple camera setup with the LED flash, which we will definitely talk about later on in the video. And the biggest, I would say, downside or the biggest gripe that I have about this design is the way that they integrated the buttons of the phone. So the volume up and down, the power button are not as good as I hoped. So specifically the power button. So as you can see, there's this kind of indentation that leads up to the power button and the volume up and down. And by the way, the power button does support a fingerprint sensor that is fairly fast and reliable. But my problem with that is that the power button is so flush that it makes it harder to get a feel for it when you're trying to click it. And I thought that I would be able to get used to it over time, and I kind of did, but I still from time to time make the mistake of kind of touching this indentation rather than the power button. So keep that in mind if you're interested in buying this phone. This may be annoying for some people. So another thing that I want to bring up here is that the back catches fingerprints like crazy. So keeping this phone clean is going to be much harder than you think if you don't have a case on it. On the bottom of the phone, you have a couple of ports. You do have your 3.5mm headphone jack. You also have your bottom facing speaker, which we will definitely get to listen to later on in the video. And this phone does support a faster charging rate than the Galaxy A14, which is a 25 watt fast charging speed. You also have your microphone at the bottom. Now the sides are, or the entire phone I would say, is made out of plastic. Like I said, it's very slippery, so a case if you want to keep this phone protected is kind of recommended. Now as far as everything else, this is definitely a step up from the previous generation. Build quality is more firm, more solid. I do have, like I said, gripe about the way they place the buttons on the phone, but other than that, it's definitely a solid build, and I feel like that's just the direction that Samsung is going to be moving towards when it comes to their even flagship phones. Okay, so the next in the conversation has to be the display. So Samsung still gave us a quality display, and it's actually better than the previous generation, which the A14, I called it as being one of the best displays for $199. This time Samsung did step it up. So a 6.5-inch 1080p OLED display, and 3 months later, I would say that one of the only problems that I have about this display is the panel. So the panel has this reflection that can kind of get in the way of the overall experience, even though that this phone is actually plenty bright for what it's worth. So this phone does reach a peak brightness of 800 nits, which is not HDR brightness, but plenty bright for outdoor conditions. And in addition to all of that, this phone does also support the ability to give you up to 90 hertz of refresh rate, right? So I would say that when looking at the price point and when looking at the things that you get with this display, to this day, 3 months later, it still is almost unmatched. I don't know if there are phones that have better displays or similar quality displays, but as far as I'm concerned, I haven't used any that has a better screen than the Galaxy A15 that cost $199 brand new. So when it comes to watching videos, enjoying your content, and consuming social media, it's definitely an enjoyable experience other than the reflection. So if you can kind of avoid that, then you'd be fine. The downside that I have about the experience, the multimedia experience, has to be the speaker though. The speaker is just horrible quality. Take a listen. Volume up and down, and they're very clicky, very tactile, very quality buttons overall. And as far as the bottom of the phone, you do get your USB-C 2 microphones as well as your bottom facing speaker. And we're going to take a listen to the speaker. So the speaker overall is just not it. It's not that good of a quality speaker. So let's just leave it at that. Next in my conversation is going to be the triple camera setup. So 3 months later, I would say, keep my original opinion on the camera. For the price, it works. You get a triple camera setup with your main sensor being a 50 megapixel sensor, a ultra wide, as well as kind of a macro sensor. The camera experience, the camera app itself, it takes pictures fairly quick, so it's almost instantaneous, and you can switch between your photo, video, portrait fairly quick. The problem that I've been running into lately though is that when switching from the main sensor to the wide angle or even to the macro sensor, it does have kind of a bit of a lag. And by default, you will be on a 12 megapixel sensor, so you can change the resolution to the 50 megapixel if you want to shoot at that. But my camera experience as far as picture quality is average for a phone at this price point, so colors don't necessarily pop. They don't have the best saturation, the most vibrance, or even a quality exposure, and video quality is meh at best. So that's kind of the summary behind the camera. If you guys want to see a full camera review, it will be linked in the description below, so I highly recommend you guys check that one out if you want a more detailed camera review. Now, the next disappointing part about this device has to be the performance. So this phone does come with between 4 to 8 gigabytes of RAM. This model here does have only 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it does use kind of a MediaTek processor, which is the MediaTek Helio G99 processor based on a 6nm architecture. And out of the box, the performance was fine. It would do the tasks fairly well, but over the span of 3 months, I did notice a significant slowdown. So lag was there, crashes were there, so I just can't, maybe with a software update it can fix it, but as of right now, this phone is kind of laggy and it's disappointing. Battery life, on the other hand, is pretty fantastic, so battery life I didn't really have an issue with, and like I said, because this phone charges really fast, you shouldn't have a problem with that. As far as heating problems, I haven't really run into it that much, but it did get warm on me on several occasions, but nothing too major. So overall though, here's my bottom line conclusion 3 months later. This still is a very competitive phone 3 months later. The only disappointing parts about it has to be the kind of performance issues. Maybe, like I said, with a software update, if it does get fixed, I'll keep you guys updated. But other than that, this is a fairly good device for the money. So with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you found this video helpful and useful, make sure you leave a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next one. Thank you all for watching.